Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Thomas FreeMe TV and podcast show. This is Thomas FreeMe. And first and foremost, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking. Thank you for all my family that's been sharing my content, getting people to tune in, man. These are very important discussions. And I bring all of these discussions to you for us to be better people. As we get into this discussion with Ms. Penney Peirce today, you'll see that a lot of what I do is just for self-improvement, one for myself. A lot of these discussions revolve around me, my thought process, my experiences, and how to be my best self, because that's what I continue to strive for each and every day, is just to be my best self. I have a lot of faults. I have a lot of toxicities. I have a lot of quirks within me that I'm just trying to work out, because at the end of the day, I truly want to be Christ-like figure, and it's a lot of work and dedication and sacrifice, mostly of self, sacrifice of ego and pride and things that we've been taught to hold up, with value. So it's overcoming these things and understanding what self is truly about. So once again, thank you for all that you guys do, and seeing that within yourself, within me, and making sure that as many people as possible can hear these messages. So if you have not liked and you have not subscribed, that is the importance of doing so, to make sure that these messages get into these silly algorithms that make sure that they pop up on people's pages, however that works. So moving forward. Many prayers and blessings going to the less fortunate out there that are striving every day to try to make their life a little improved, a little easier, a little more comforting. I pray for those out there that are trying to find love in the task that is in itself. And that's what today's show is about: self-love, self-preservation, and just becoming your best self. I'm in a very stressful line of work, dealing with the criminal justice system, the corruption that ensues it, the hypocrisy within it, dealing with our representatives, our legislators, and then the boots on the ground, being out with the homeless and the addicted, and dealing with returning citizens and their families, and just trying to maintain a balance between all of that can wreak havoc on my soul, on my spirit, on my positivity, on so many different things. And as you will find in this interview coming up, conversations with Ms. Penney Peirce are grounding. And we all need to have somebody that is a grounded individual that can recenter our focus. So before I get into this interview with Ms. Penney Peirce, I would like to read her oracle letter. Every year she comes with an oracle letter. If you're not familiar with who Ms. Penney Peirce is, she's a world-renowned clairvoyant, personal vibrationist. She has written many books on self-improvement, on personal vibration and how that interacts with our environment, how we create the environments that we live in. And quite frankly, her books changed my thought process in my life and directed into the direction that we see today. So if it was not for this human being, I may be a completely different person. Who's to say? We can only deal with what we have today. I can only share the fact that this person was a large contributor in altering that thought process within me. So each year, this wonderful human being comes with her oracle letter, and I'm going to start this discussion, a series, with her oracle letter for 2023. So, as I sense the coming year and its experiences and lessons, I feel it as already having happened, fulfilling its part in the Earth's and our transformation process. Reviewing what I wrote last year, I see that so much of it carries over. You can read it at www.penneypeirce.com/oracles/ That's Penney, Penney, Peirce, Peirce.com. A theme I saw reiterated by many clients and colleagues last year was that many of us felt ready to move forward and expand into a new level of expression or a new scope of our life, yet conditions didn't seem quite ready. I experienced much distraction from work requiring my sharp left brain preferring quieter physical tasks and activity. It turned out to be a prolonged time and liminal space, on the threshold, and in that limbo land, many deep patterns surfaced that had been interfering with my next level of open-heartedness and clear-mindedness. I discovered new ways to clear these patterns, often with the help of friends who were discovering these new ways too. This process was echoed by others, and quite a few experienced highly dramatic events like deaths, illness, losses, or periods of panic. It seems we were clearing our personal field, making space for the materialization of that new scope of life. As the months sped along, by autumn, the energy shifted. We were lifted into a new frequency, and flow of opportunities, or at least crystal clear choices, began to drop into place. And all without willpower. It just seemed to be a function of eternal readiness. 7 in the rabbit. Numerologists tell us 2023 is a 7 universal year, and that means an alignment with truth, the correction of lies, and the desire to look for the deep purpose behind events. There may be an increased pursuit for many of spirituality, study analyzing one's life and work and finding a path that is non-sacrificial. It may also indicate the rise of more technological developments in finance, robotics, and applications for AI. At the same time, the 7-year could bring attention to internet-related activity to realign it with greater ethics, accuracy, and universal principles. And since 7 requires privacy to attain clarity, we may see more need to pull away from crowds, to be independent and authentic, or to leave the corporate world to become self-employed. Keeping with the truth and honesty theme, it's also likely that people will begin to see through the ineffectiveness of old systems, old beliefs, and old habits, both personally and societally, and call for greater transparency, reduction of ego, and distortion. This is also the year of the water rabbit in Chinese astrology, which could bring welcome sweetness, intuition, sensitivity, and fluidity into our consciousness. It might be easier to shift into contemplation and quietness to balance ourselves, but the rabbit also brings cleverness, quick reaction time, heightened ability to steadfastly pursue a goal, prosperity, and above all, luck. More intensity and speed. The energy of 2023 is intense, and it will bring all the expansion we can handle along with possible overwhelm. For those who have been on a spiritual path, what comes will be genuine, just right opportunities and more recognition by ourselves and others of our talent. We will be more generous and humanitarian, innovating new systems, teaching and communication methods, and solutions to world problems. We will play with the idea of identity, seeing it as a tool, all while releasing past identities so we can be whatever is called forth in each moment. Some will feel jacked up by adrenaline, impulsiveness, and ambition, and others will transmute ambition into enthusiasm. For those who have identified with fear beliefs and us versus them polarized thinking, with a tendency to take on dominator and victim roles, there will likely be a retrenching and refortification of those belief and behavior patterns. That means a more urgent need to be surrounded by like-minded, like-appearing people, and to demean or attack those who are different. Others will seem increasingly threatening. There is much fear floating around the planet, and a common deflection from fear is anger and violence. At a personal level, that may mean a rise in domestic violence, mass shootings, and suicide. Societally and politically, it may result in more extremism, with far-right fundamentalist conspiracy theorists and autocratic narcissists gaining control and feeling powerful temporarily. We may see more assassinations and restrictive, destructive laws passed. Of course, the other tactic for dealing with fear is control, and there is no better expert at using it than the ego. Ego death and balancing our brain hemispheres. I sense that 2023 is part of a grand ego death process on Earth, that we are beginning to experience real transformation, and that requires the equal balanced use of both left and right brain hemispheres. Ego, in my understanding, is the overuse and over-identification with the left brain functioning in consciousness. It experiences separation, and it thinks it must do things alone. Isolation is a given, but it is resisted forcefully, leading to the absolute need to control the outside world and others. Ego death is really the shifting of emphasis between the brain hemispheres, or even between the head and heart. The left brain must give up being the boss and see itself as the implementer and meaning giver. The right brain will come to be seen as the doorway and the translator of divine, universal wisdom and visionary genius, the master teacher within. As this happens, the two hemispheres equalize and begin to work in harmony. But of course, the ego doesn't want to give up its specialness and power, so it continues to fight. The left brain, ego, consciousness, will pull out all its tricks. It will gaslight others, cleverly convincing them to doubt themselves. It will distract and distance others, threaten and punish them, charm them, instill distrust in them, shift from dominator to victim and back to dominator, and confuse them by saying the truth is actually a lie and a lie is actually the truth. If nothing works, ego will reject others to try to annihilate them, quote-unquote cancer culture, since disagreement cannot be tolerated. We will see more of these narcissistic behaviors coming from ego-based people, and many of us will learn to recognize it for what it is and not put up with it. Instead of dominators seeing so powerful, oddly attractive, and threatening, narcissism will be seen as infantile and stupid. And when the subjects don't behave as the bullies dictate and seem bored and uninterested, the pattern will slowly fade from prominence and bullies will seem ridiculous. As this begins to occur, we may see failed narcissists commit suicide or die of a sudden illness or accident. In milder expressions, there will certainly be a drive to define one's individuality by being branded by people who are identity experts. Many people are working to develop presence and confidence and are looking for a way to stand out and gain recognition, especially as they decide to work for themselves and start their own business. In this case, the focusing work is a step closer to clarity. Spirituality versus religion. We are going to experience many more people opening to the richness of what the right brain offers. Intuition will become much more popular and widespread, as will the desire to understand and walk a quote-unquote spiritual path rather than just a religious one. We will understand how universal principles inhere in the fabric of our being and how external rules and dogma are unnecessary. We will understand that each of us has an inner divine voice that makes priests and religious go-betweens less mandatory. And we can know directly in any moment what is just right and high frequency for us. And speaking of frequency, the understanding of energy and consciousness dynamics will spread like wildfire, becoming common sense to people around the world. It will begin to change our thinking, behavior, and reality. We will see the soul in whatever we look at, including objects and ourselves in the mirror. And related to that, the continuing acceleration will up our sensitivity levels, making more people aware of subtle energy information. At first, they may feel overwhelmed and stressed from sensing the fear and anger in that field, reinforced by the media, and this will result in more teachers and healers developing programs and services to train people in the skillful use of empathy and telepathy, adapting to the waves or not. Stress levels can increase even as many people heal and become more enlightened. The acceleration does not stop, and we must learn to continually check ourselves to see whether we're reacting to an emotional issue that wants to be cleared or whether it's just a higher frequency energy wave wanting to pass through us and raise our body's vibration to a more refined state. We are learning to work with the waves rather than resist them. There are many people, however, who live by deeply rooted fixed beliefs or standards, who don't understand what's happening energetically and interpret it as a threat from something in the physical reality, like the opposing political party, or the loss of jobs due to AI, or potential warlike invasions from hostile countries. They are living with much suppressed and active fear or depression. For quite some time, I have seen that a large percentage of the Earth's population will eventually choose to leave the planet, whether it's because of the energetic stuckness caused by old habits or feelings of helplessness, or just by a kind of innocent ignorance. I don't know. All I know is there is no blame. And though it may seem paradoxical, I have been told by my inner guidance that in actuality, for the souls, the passings are acts of kindness, and much healing will take place immediately in the non-physical realms. This seems to have begun with the COVID pandemic and various related viral epidemics, as well as the opioid fentanyl epidemic. There may seem to be a proliferation of smaller mass death events, perhaps weather and environmentally related, failure of mass transportation vehicles, war casualties, or genocide, a rise of suicide, and even things like starvation. Ancient history and other life forms. Our sensitivity heightens and we value transparency more and more, and I sense we will see through the superficial explanations given to us by academic professionals who are resistant to change and unusual theories that don't fit their assumptions. This would be especially true concerning the ancient history of our planet and the other extraterrestrial or intergalactical races that have visited us. This would be especially true concerning the ancient history of our planet and the other extraterrestrial or intergalactic races that have visited and lived here, perhaps using the planet as an incubator for various experiments. I don't mean to sound too woo-woo or out there, but I am becoming more conscious of the many kinds of beings that may still share this planet with us, while keeping out of sight and not directly interfering with our evolution. This year, more of the hidden information about these other conscious beings may come into light. What can you do? As usual, stabilize yourself within your own home frequency and allow others to be who they are. Let people change at their own rate. And yet, if you feel impelled to share ideas or assistance, go ahead and offer. Stay present and out of too many definitions, but ask for what you need, even if you don't exactly know what it is. The word for the year is generosity. It will help us get through everything challenging together. That's my little word that I threw on the end, together. With love and a continued positive perspective, Ms. Penney Peirce. Amen. God bless. And let us roll on with the show. Welcome back, Ms. Penney Peirce. We missed you.
You can't handle the truth.
So, Ms. Penney Peirce. So I got my banana. I got my I left it in the microwave. Give me 1 second. Okay. I got my banana. I got my green tea.
All right.
In a special cup that was given to me by a very dear friend. So I am ready for spiritual centering.
Okay.
It's been a minute since we've connected. This, I believe, is our
Yeah.
fourth connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
For the listener, you were my very first guest. You were the one
Really?
that absolutely, you were the one that um was the person that I reached out to, and it all spawned from when I was incarcerated, and I ran across your book Frequency. It changed my whole thought process. It just brought so much uh, enlightenment to everything that has happened in my life up into that point. And
Wow.
the secret kind of woke me to this other side, and frequency zeroed it in.
Mhm.
It really zeroed it in. And when I came home and I started my podcasting, if you remember at that time, I was in a highly toxic relationship with an individual, and uh, I said, you know what? Who can be my first guest? Because I've done a couple shows, but I said, I really need to bring some top notch, high quality guests onto my show. Who can I bring? And the first person that came to me was you. I kept a lot of my books from incarceration because I've spent so much time with them, and underlined in them and wrote notes in them. I still have
Yeah.
them on my shelf in there. I pulled out that book, and I found your contact information in there, reached out to you, and here we are 4 shows later.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. It's always fun because somehow we just roll with whatever topics we're going to look at.
Well, absolutely, and the whole premise of my discussions are to try to wake America up. We are the cause of the chaos that is going on around us, but yet we keep looking outside of ourselves and blaming others, and the chaos just keeps getting worse and worse. Which is why I love bringing you on the show, because for me, you were such a lighthouse, just a guide. You were a beacon in the midst of a storm, and I just happened to reach out to you when I'm in the midst of these storms, which I've done this time as well. You know,
Uh-huh.
we're in tumultuous times, Miss Penny. We got a lot of stuff being thrown at us from every direction, and none of it is good. The people are really in fear. I'm in fear. It's scary times, and for me, trying to survive, coming from where I came from, having a toxic woman strip me of everything, leaving my family pretty much in debt because we all put so much into that relationship, and then seeing everything that's going on, it's hard to maintain focus on centered self. It's hard to get up each day and say cheery things. It's hard to be bright. It's hard to be positive and centered. And I notice this with people. And when I'm out Ubering, it really gives me a grounds feel to the community, to the people, because
Mm.
the people that I'm Ubering are usually impoverished people. You know, these are people
Uh,
that don't have cars, they don't have licenses,
uh,
things of that nature. So when I get up in Uber, I Uber in the morning time, so I'm catching people going back and forth to work. So I really get a feel of the community when I'm with these people. And people are scared. People don't have any money. They're renting. The renters are trying to force them out of the homes, because here in the Tampa Bay area with the price escalation, and they're trying
yeah.
to grow Tampa Bay so much that the renters can't afford to keep up with the rent each year.
Mhm.
So there's just a lot of pressure. So I say all that to say that you're a beacon, and to put the sugar on the cake for you. you're a beacon for a lot of people, whether I'm sure that you know this, but I see a lot of you on TikTok. I see it.
No kidding.
I do. I do. And I just messaged I just made a comment to somebody the other day who was speaking very highly of frequency and how it changed his life and trying to get people to read this book. And I made a comment. I made a comment on his page, and I should have screenshotted it and brought it up for the viewer. But I just made a comment like, man, this is a wonderful woman. This is a wonderful human being, and I'm getting ready to interview her again. And I dropped a link to one of our prior episodes. But you touch a lot of people, Ms. Peirce.
Well, that's good to know. Sometimes I'm a little isolated, in my own reality, doing writing or doing whatever I'm doing, since I haven't been traveling so much since COVID. And I do Zoom stuff, but I don't really have that much of a community here where I live in Florida. Mainly because I don't know, I just haven't found that many like-minded others. But it's really good to hear that things are connecting out there. So I love that.
Even though I feel a lot of hopelessness, I'm actually seeing people be kinder to each other, in all honesty. Even though that the news and the TV shows things to be different. But when I'm out in the community, people are holding doors for one another. They're saying thank you. They're being courteous. They're being patient in lines. I see a lot of de-escalation. When people are getting emotional, I see a lot of the community stepping in and trying to de-escalate. And this is all I've been asking on my podcast of our communities, is to stop relying on the government to fix our issues and to just start being a better person. If we all just started,
so important. Yeah.
If we all just started being a better person, just start with ourselves and what we do. Be mindful of what we do. Everything
even
if
it's just chatting with your neighbor. I walk my dog now. I have a dog, and so I never did walk around the neighborhood, and now I am, and I'm meeting all these people, and they're all really interesting and nice, and it's neat, that you just, I don't know, they're not like you're going to be your best buddies, but they'll help you if you need help, and vice versa.
And that's it. I'm not asking people to be. I tell people, listen, you don't have to be friends. Just be calm and courteous. Just be courteous and respectful. If you see that somebody needs help, just stop and help the person.
Right.
Whatever you can do. If it's outside of your limits, you just kindly tell the person, I'm sorry, this is outside of my scope of what I can do.
Yeah.
And you keep it moving, but there's no reason to be disrespectful. And it's kind of reinforcing. It really is. So for me, I have, with my organization, we've made some great strides. I have met another wonderful human being that's come into my life that I think really saw that I was at the end of my rope. I was exhausted. I didn't know who to trust. And I'm trying to build a nonprofit by myself, and this person kind of came in and really towed the way since then, and we've made great strides. And this person came in, Miss Yvette is who I'm speaking of, Miss Yvette Harvey. She came in and created her own portion, like I gave, because my passion is with the criminal justice, with the incarcerated, trying to get people to become aware of this prison industrial system, this warehousing of human beings and such. And that is really where my passion and my scope is, and hers is more on the homeless side. And we both kind of meet in the middle when it comes to addiction. Now, I understand all of this stuff goes hand in hand, but I told Miss Yvette, like, you take that side of Coming Home Coalition, the homeless side, and do your thing with it. You focus on that. And she created a great program called Project Start Fresh. Project Start Fresh is what we are doing now, is finding one individual, one human being that needs help. because there's so many organizations out there that is doing like a mass project for help, but there's not many that just solely is picking one person and guiding this person all the way back into self-sufficiency. So this is what she's put together. And her first individual is a man named Eddie Deloy, who is homeless. This is a man with 2 master's degrees in engineering. So when he's just trying to get a stepping stone job to get off the street, they won't hire him because of his credentials. And that's some of the issues, is some of these individuals have such high credentials that when they go to apply for a job, Walmart, Amazon, things of that nature, they automatically think that something's wrong with this person. He's an addict, or there's something there. Why does this person with 2 engineering degrees want to come work at Walmart?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we started a thing. We started collecting donations from organizations, and we have a raffle that's going now, to win Tampa Bay Rays tickets. We've got him a job. He's in the Sarasota area. He's been working at this job. I believe he gets his first paycheck here soon. He's still on the street. He still needs amenities, but we were able to get him a gym pass so he can at least go in, take a shower, go to work fresh, and have that good feeling, of being part of something. And this is what we've done. My podcast has grown to about 50,000 listeners now. And it's just the perseverance of believing in me. I'm told no at least 100 times a day, but it doesn't shake me at all. I'm like a oak tree in the wind. And this is all, Ms. Penney, this is all in part because of you as a human being, because of what you have accomplished and done and allowed me to come across your material to alter my life in the fashion that it has. This is why I always pay so much, homage to you.
Oh, thank you so much. It sounds like wonderful. I like the idea of one person. In fact, I did a thing with a charity in San Francisco when I lived there, where they had like personal style consultants and stuff who did makeovers for homeless women, but also they used donated clothing to help them redress themselves so that they could look upscale, or get jobs that a little easier, perhaps. It was a great idea, I thought, because it really helped change people's self-esteem about who they are. A simple thing, and certainly many style people would volunteer for free to do that. And there's a lot of pretty good clothing at the thrift stores, So anyway, but I hear you about the fear. I think maybe we've talked about this before, but my overview is that, I go back into the energy of things, and what I sense happening on the planet is that there's been this continual acceleration of energy. Things are getting more high frequency, more intense, time's moving faster. And it's been, for, oh God, I don't know, 50 years or so that this has just been in a constant thing. And, you can feel it. You get these certain waves of energy that run through, and depending on how conscious you are that day, sometimes I just get overwhelmed and I have to go to take a nap. I can't stay conscious. It's almost like I have to get my left brain out of the way so that the energy can just move through, because my body knows what to do with it, how to adjust to the new frequency. But if your mind's in the way with old thinking, then it kind of blocks it, and then the energy backs up in your body and you get upset, you get anxious, you get irritable, whatever, and you don't quite let it go all the way through you because you stop it. I don't know if that makes sense. But so part of it is just to allow yourself to increase energetically, and stay in tune with the planet in a way, but what happens when that higher frequency energy starts moving through, is that everything that's low frequency in your body that used to be able to be stored like in the subconscious mind where you didn't have to think about it, like, and those would be fears or things you're avoiding or, shame or upsets. Um, those things are very low frequency because they're fear-based. And so they can't stay down there anymore. And so what happens then is it's kind of like popcorn popping. And those ideas and old memories or whatever, they're almost like physical vibratory patterns that are stored. They come up and you have a recurrence of something similar in your present moment environment. You'll get an odd repetition of some person acting the same way a person did in the past. And there it is, like your movie for you right there. And the challenge is not to go back into the same reactionary pattern about it, but to stay present and watch it and notice it. Don't get so involved and say, oh, I see what that's all about, or why somebody would act that way, or why I would have acted that way. And it's okay because I'm not that same person now. And don't own it. It's like an opportunity to reprocess something from the past that you can see it as almost like, like almost boring. And as you stop investing in it as meaningful, which of course, when you're in resistance, you're investing in it, you're giving it attention. And so it stays with you. But when you don't care that much, it's like, okay, I'm done with that. Other people may be doing it, but not me. It drifts off, dissolves into the unified field out there of energy. And now you're clearer of it, and more of your true self can come through where that thing used to take up space in you. So every time you have one of these upsets, it's an opportunity to clear an old piece. I call it your inner blueprint. We all have this inner pattern in our energy bodies that's composed partly of our soul's clarity and love and purpose for each lifetime as well. But also it's composed of past life karma and fears and things that happened in our childhood and opinions and biases and belief systems and all these fixed things. So there's part love and part fear in there, and the fear will block the love from getting through. So the more fear you clear, the more the soul comes through. And then the more you remember, hey, I am the soul. I don't have a soul out there somewhere. It's not a possession. I'm it, and as you do that, you clear up a lot more. And you won't have a tendency to fall back into anxiety modes or depression or thinking that the world is falling apart. So that's part of it. I think that's what we would call the spiritual path. It's like clearing fear and then re-identifying with who we really are, that spiritual core self. But that's for the individual, but the same thing is happening societally and globally. So that a lot of the collective fears that we've had over lifetimes, millennia, are clearing out of many people. They're coming up. And that's why it seems like we're swimming around in a pool of fear, because it's in the environment around us. It's in the news, it's in people's minds, it's people acting out the shootings on these poor innocent kids. And like, they're just out of they're just not themselves. They're so far separated. From their core true heart self, and it's a terrible suffering of that. But anyway, I feel like all of this is part of the earth clearing a lot of things. That there's a great experiment happening here, and that is that humanity is going to become more enlightened. And that there will be a critical mass of people who become very clear, and it doesn't have to be over 50%. It could be, I don't know what, I mean, it could be like 30% or 20%. It needs a certain psychic weight. And then it's like how the internet took off. It came in and then boom, boom, in a few years, it was all over the world. That's the way this will go. But there is a process that we can know about and use to clear the fear from us. But it is, I think, a certain time in the process right now where part of that subconscious stuff that's coming up, it's always based on polarity, us versus them, inside, outside, back and forth, up and down, and that you see yourself as opposed to the big outside world that is so dangerous and so powerful, and you have no control over it, and it's going to do you in. And that idea of separation is the culprit, that there's something out there that's not me. Everything is part of our big self. It's all inside our ball, I call it, our big spherical field of energy. And it's what you place attention on that becomes real in your personal reality. So if you're paying attention to the fear stuff and the suffering piece, you'll see that. It'll come around. It'll show up in your reality because you're paying attention to it. If you get kind of bored with that for a while and look at what's really working, what's really clear, then your reality clears up. Now, the suffering piece is still in you and people are hurting, but you don't have to hurt with them. You can stay very clear and very centered and offer what needs to be done, just like what you're doing. And you do it from a place of centeredness and clarity and kindness, and you're vulnerable, but you're not. You haven't lost your center. You're vulnerable, but that means that you're open.
Right, but you're not weak.
You have an open heart.
But you're not weak.
Yeah, exactly. That's good. Yeah. And so I feel like we're looking at politics and everything right now, and things seem to be getting worse and worse. But that's because the polarity has come up. We're seeing, a whole group of people who don't want anyone else to be different from them because it could be dangerous. Like everybody should be, white, male, whatever, all the stuff. And you're not allowed to have other color skin or other countries or other languages or ways of understanding God or whatever, because they feel danger from something different. But if you see the similarity in all people, similarities open intuition. And intuition is direct knowing of universal things. When you see differences, you block your intuition. And you don't get very good information then. You don't get any insight. You just have beliefs. And those are fixed ideas, often based in fear. So I'm not a big fan of beliefs. I like thoughts that can be fluid, that can be revised. For now, I understand things this way. Now, next year, I might see the universe differently, or how things work a little better, and then I'll be there.
You deal with it then.
Yes.
That's exactly right.
We don't lock it down. That's the problem. Is things that don't flow, are really the cause of pain and suffering.